What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Horror Boy channel. And today I wanted to get some old friends back on here. These are guys that I've known for a while, and they are really, really cool dudes. And I can't thank them enough for being back here on the show. They're always welcome here. My fellow explorers of horror. We got my buddy Steve, who is back on the stream.
What's up, brothers? Good to see you guys again.
And we got the legendary John freaking Grande. What's going on, my man?
Too sweet, baby. What's going on, YouTube Horror Land? Glad to be back on the Horror Boys channel, surfing with my two good broskies.
Oh, it's absolutely wonderful to have you back on, man. Like I said, you guys are always welcome to be on the show. It's always great to have you guys on. And Steve had brought up a really good point. He wanted to do a creature feature discussion here on YouTube, and I absolutely love that because, like I told you guys before we started the show, I have recently really gotten into sci-fi creature feature horror films. I've rewatched all the Alien and Predator movies, even the bad ones. I've rewatched, just getting sucked into it again, and it was a great time. It was perfect timing, and it was a great idea. So I was like, yeah, for sure. And you guys know a lot more about creature feature flicks than I do. I mean, I've missed some of the big ones. I mean, I haven't even seen Gremlins yet, so that's how out of it I am. But, you know, hopefully I can get some recommendations from you guys, and we can all talk about some great fun flicks. We got Trenchy here, we got Art here, we got Devin here, we got Bob the Raptor here. How is it going, guys? And by the way, if I cut out at all, guys, I'll be back in like a second. I don't know why, but StreamYard boots me out sometimes. So if I get booted out and I'm quiet, I'll be back in like a minute. It shouldn't take too much. So, but yeah, I'm going to be talking about some creature feature flicks. If one of you guys want to kick off the discussion, you guys totally can. The floor is yours. The floor is your guys's. You guys are the guests.
Steve's idea. I think Steve should kick us off, baby.
Oh,
I think you're right, man. I think you're right. And I don't think there's a better place to start than in the Universal Classic Monsters. Best place to start. Great place to start for people who haven't really gotten into creature features yet. And it's also just, I mean, for horror movies in general, I mean, these are the things that really got us all started, or got horror started in the way that it sort of has evolved since. I mean, you had a little bit before that. You had some of the German Expressionism. You had, of course, Lon Chaney Sr. in the silent era. But I really want to talk about the talkie period in the 30s, moving up just through the whole series of them. I would say best place to start, even though Dracula is the first one, I say definitely start with Frankenstein. That way you kind of get the feel of pre-code and pre-ambient music horror at that time. So that's a cool thing to get involved in. Really great movie, and still a little bit chilling today, I think, too. I mean, no disrespect to Dracula, but Dracula feels a little bit stagey, feels a little bit still stuck in the silent period, and they're not really using sound the way that they could. In Frankenstein, they use sound a lot better, and they use it for scares, in fact. You can even think about when Fritz steals the brain from the medical school. You get one of the very first huge jump scares in sort of talkie horror, which is when he drops one of the brains and it shatters on the floor. All this glass and the juice and stuff just shatters on the floor, and it's out of this corridor of silence. So you sort of it's easy to jump if you've got the sound up loud enough. It's pretty interesting, pretty good stuff there. What do you guys think as far as starting off with like Universal horror movies? Like I say start with Frankenstein. You can get into Dracula a little bit later after that, but really, if you follow the Frankenstein timeline, you'll eventually sort of intersect with all of them.
That's a great point, man. I think personally, I'm a huge fan, and thank you, Aiden. By the way, he's complimenting my Tales on the Dark Side hat. God bless you, man.
So Aiden.
For me, it's really there's two that stand out. The first one is the Wolfman. I love Lon Chaney Jr. I think he's fantastic. I think he's just a wonderful actor, and his performance, I think, really takes it over the top. I mean, I think he just his everything about it. I think it's wonderful. And the other one would be Bride of Frankenstein. That's just one of my all-time. That's probably my favorite Universal monster movie, just because of actually the humanism elements discussed in that film. I always remember the scene with the blind man inviting Frankenstein in, and of course the town villagers, they see this and they're frightened by it, and inadvertently end up burning the guy's house down trying to save him, even though he didn't need any saving. He was just having dinner with his friend. It's the age-old tale of don't judge a book by its cover, and I always loved that scene. Like this on the forefront looks like a monster, but at the end of the day, he was harmless. And I love the ending scene of that film where Frankenstein pulls the lever and says, "You two leave, we belong dead." Almost as if there is no place for monsters in this universe, which is really sad and morbid. But at the end of the day, it's just such a well done film, man. I love The Bride of Frankenstein. Those are definitely for Universal horror movies. It's those two, and then of course Creature from the Black Lagoon. I also love.
Yeah, I just rewatched Creature from the Black Lagoon. I don't know. I guess it was only a couple weeks ago. Maybe it was last week. It really holds up. It's definitely worth watching. Still got some creep factor to it, and really good music as well. You sometimes don't think about those early Universal horror movies for their music, but the music's really great in Creature from the Black Lagoon. And the suit is just so great. The costuming job there, it's fantastic. And I think I agree with you. I think probably it comes down to Wolfman or Bride of Frankenstein for me, because Wolfman, I mean, it's a packed cast of just great people. I mean, you got Lon Chaney Jr., you've got Bela Lugosi in there. You've got Maria Ouspenskaya, and you've got Claude Rains in there as well. Really good cast, really good movie. And I've heard it said that some people think that that's an early sort of film noir, but in horror because of how dark the ending is and how sort of hopeless the whole situation is. And I mean, if I'm gonna choose my favorite Universal monster, period, it's probably Wolfman. I've always really liked those movies, and I always really enjoyed Lon Chaney Jr.'s performance. I think he's one of my favorite of the early horror stars. But yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. I'll add to the mix also, in addition to Bride of Frankenstein, which I think is probably pretty much universally considered the best out of those movies. And I mean, it even shows up on my top 10 horror movies list. So it's probably my favorite out of the Universal horror movies. But also, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is
yes,
great. And it's so funny. It's so funny, too. It's still funny despite the fact that it's like it's like 80 years old or something like that. It's close. But it's a really funny, fantastic movie that I think is really worth watching for a modern audience. And also, it's the only one of the sort of Monster Mash movies where they got all of the monsters together that's really objectively good. I mean, a lot of the Monster Mash movies they're okay, they're fun. If you're a fan, you're going to enjoy them. But even if you're not a huge fan, I think you can enjoy Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. I almost said Bride of Frankenstein because, I mean, that's true also. If you're not a huge fan, you can also enjoy Bride of Frankenstein. But Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, they're also really great. I say really probably those three are really good ones to get into. I only say Frankenstein because, yeah, you can still do sort of the talky period. You don't have to get involved with like the ambient music. But at the same time, the scores for all three of those movies and everything involved in them are really great. And yeah, and Creature from the Black Lagoon is a good pick too. I love that movie. Now, Nate, I know you got into the Universal horror stuff pretty recently, like within the last, like probably within the last year. So, what's your experience with it? What do you think about it?
It was a blast, man. I'll be honest, I didn't really think it'd be as good as I realized it was when I watched these movies. Just the time they were made, the special effects they pulled off, and I really got respect for stuff like The Invisible Man. I really loved that movie. I mean, it's really, I don't know if you would consider it a creature feature, but it is a Universal Monsters film. So, I guess I could just lop it in there just for the sake of it. But I really enjoyed that movie and its special effects. I thought that the lead actor who played the Invisible Man did just knocked it out of the park kind of performance. It was just excellent as this madman. And, the Wolfman really sticks out. That movie I absolutely loved. Bride of Frankenstein really blew me away. I mean, that was a movie that I was kind of like, I think it'll be good, but everybody talks about it, so I might not like it as much as everybody else. Because there have been movies that I see that everybody loves, and I'm like, okay, I'll give this a watch if I really like. And I must say, it definitely deserves the credit that it's given. I thought it was a wonderful film, and it's not just a good horror movie. I think it's a good story, and it's a good film. It covers so many different grounds that I ended up really enjoying. Frankenstein, of course, is a masterpiece. And I will say this, the original Frankenstein's makeup, I will say, is really good. Like the original, I love the Bride of Frankenstein makeup, but the original just looked creepy to me. The way they light it and the way it's shadowy, it just looks really creepy to me. Dracula is great. Huh?
Yeah, sorry to butt in, but Jack Pierce, I mean, he's the master. I mean, if you didn't have Jack Pierce, you wouldn't have like any of the great makeup artists ever. Mm-hmm. I mean, the only person that maybe is a little bit more influential would be Lon Chaney Sr. And at the same time, I mean, the stuff that he was doing was maybe even more radical than what Jack Pierce was doing. But Jack P. Pierce, I mean, the guy is a legend, and like we wouldn't have like Rob Bottin or who's the guy who did American Werewolf in London again? What was that guy?
Yeah, I get his name mixed up with
Rick Baker.
Rick Baker. You wouldn't have Rick Baker without Jack Pierce.
I always get Rick Baker and Stan Winston mixed up. I don't know why.
No. They do sort of. They kind of have a similar bent, but I guess Stan Winston's a little bit more creature heavy than like just costumes in general. But anyway, really cool stuff there. And okay, you were going to talk about Dracula though.
Oh yeah, just Dracula was wonderful. Although I did hear that, and I love the original Dracula. It's actually my favorite of the movies. But a lot of people told me to watch the Spanish version, and I'm curious about that because people said the Spanish version is a lot more technically well made than the American version. So I'll have to check that one day. But yeah, the one that was really surprising to me though was Creature from the Black Lagoon, because you look back on Jaws, and Jaws was made in the 70s, and you can see how hard that was to make. And I can only imagine being in the 50s. I think it was in the 50s they made that movie. And that was like 20 years before Jaws. And I can only imagine the technical difficulties of shooting underwater sequences and lighting it and filming it as good as it looked. Like, as really, if I really look back on it, it wasn't like it was all shaky and you couldn't tell what was going on. It was really well filmed. So I really don't know how they pulled it off back in the 50s, because I don't know if they had underwater camp. Maybe they did. It just blew me away, and the makeup staying intact and how it looked. It was a lot of fun visiting that era for sure. It was a blast. It was a fun time.
Yeah, and another good one from that time period is Freaks. Freaks is another one that like
that movie was great. That was
super disturbing, like still today, and also one of those movies that like you couldn't make today, and even if you did try to make it today, I don't think it would have the same power.
Yeah.
Really, really great movie, and great because like you didn't really need many special effects.
No.
But at the same time, like also and this is maybe something that we should talk a little bit about, but the fact that you always sort of in these early movies you feel sorry for the monsters because you kind of have to identify with them. They're not necessarily bad, a lot of them, but a lot of them sort of are in sad, bad situations. I mean, nothing is more obvious in that than Freaks, because you watch Freaks and you see all these different characters, and most of them, the quote unquote freaks or the sideshow performers, they're basically pretty good people trying to live normal lives, but at the same time, sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes things get tough, and you've got the guy whose girlfriend is cheating on him, and the poor lady that like she really wants. It's clear that she should be with this other man, but the other man just doesn't have the heart to be to look into her or anything like that. It's really rather sad, but it's a really great movie, and I don't know. Would you guys consider that a creature feature? Because at the same time, like most of them they're still humans.
I wouldn't personally.
It's debatable. It depends on like maybe the closest one is the chick at the end of the movie that the freaks disfigure and stuff. Maybe, but that's really more of like Hills Have Eyes. I don't really consider Hills Have Eyes to be creatures. They're more like just really, really, really deformed people, but they're pretty damn close. I can say that.
Yeah, they definitely aren't monsters. It's more sort of the fact that people would perceive them as monsters that kind of makes you think of it sort of as a monster movie, but it's not really a monster movie. It's just it's almost it is kind of Hills Have Eyes because it's a group of people versus another group of people kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
it flip-flopped in that movie though, if you realize that. It's like a flip-flop Hills Have Eyes where the normal people are causing the travesties and then the deformed people are the ones trying to fight back,
Yeah, you're right. That's definitely true. And it's a fantastic movie, and I say everybody should watch it. But yeah, by the way, the chicken makeup at the end, like chicken costume and makeup and stuff like that, that's Lon Chaney Sr.'s work.
Really?
Apparently supposed to be doing it for another movie that they had planned, and then of course he passed away before he could use it. But yeah, so weird. So weird. That's like by far one of the strangest movies ever made, but it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy how he would do all of his own makeup back then. Like, can you only imagine? He had to read scripts, memorize lines, do all this stuff, and he had to apply his own makeup as well. So, and that was back before makeup was like back then, makeup was new. Like film was new, sound was even new. So it was like I can only imagine that back then. It's crazy, man. I really appreciate what happened, and how people would really put a lot of effort into these things. I mean, it really shows. I mean, to this day, we're still talking about these films, whether it's Nosferatu or Phantom of the Opera. There's some ones I want to bring up as well. There's a couple big ones that I haven't seen yet. Like there's. In the 50s, there was a big boom of like apocalypse movies that I didn't see, but are infamous. Like, of course, you got the Godzilla movies, but you also got Thing from Another World. You've got, The War of the Worlds. You've got It Came from Outer Space. All these movies that hopefully one day I can get into them. That's another one that I've heard about. Attack of the Killer Shrews. A lot of really big ones. Tarantula. I think Attack of the Giant Leeches is one of them as well, but are you guys familiar with any of the 50s apocalyptic boom movies, like the ones that were really big back then?
I've seen some, but it's one of those things where it's like it's just not really my cup of tea. Like I've seen I Am Legend, which is a Richard Matheson story, and then of course they remade it with Will Smith like 10 years or so ago. I've seen some of them, but yeah, it's just not. The 50s as an entire decade of horror, I'm not the biggest on. Like I don't ever really go back and watch too many 50s horror films. But with that being said, they aren't the worst in the world. It's just like when I think apocalypse movies, I go more hardcore zombie films from the 70s, like that's just more my speed, I guess. But I'm sure you could find some good ones. I just haven't seen too many. I have seen I think it's Last Man on Earth. I forget who the hell was in it.
Vincent Price.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen of course, I guess you can kind of consider Planet of the Apes, but at the same time maybe not, and that's more late 60s too. So but yeah, I don't know. I've seen them. I've seen some, just not really the most gigantic fan. I don't know about Steve though.
Yeah, well, I'm sort of getting into them. The 50s and 60s sci-fi / horror stuff is something that I've been getting into a lot lately. It's a good way if you want to just try to explore it and figure some interesting stuff out about it. It's like it's pretty good to sort of lean into that in early September as you're going into spooky season. As, like before you get into October, where you got to sort of maybe start doing, pump in the ghost stories and the slashers and the real creature features and stuff like that, and the stuff that you really enjoyed from your childhood and maybe even more recent stuff. Like you can sort of dip your toes into the water with 50s and 60s sci-fi and sci-fi horror. So I'd recommend obviously Planet of the Apes. I would definitely include that. Planet of the Apes is like you said, John. It's a little bit teetering on the line, but I'd definitely call it a creature feature. And the makeup effects are great. The music is great. It's the first atonal score. Charlton Heston's great, as he is in everything. And just great movie overall. And then I would also recommend, going into the 70s stuff, I would also say like the rest of the Planet of the Apes movies, all of them are fun, except maybe the second one. But almost all of the Planet of the Apes stuff.
Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. Oh gosh, Beneath the Planet of the Apes. It is an unintentional comedy though, because it's like they're in a church service and they're worshiping an atomic bomb. And they talk about like the blessed bomb and all this different stuff. It's fantastic. And then you've got Charlton Heston at some point. He's all sort of tired, but I think he's mostly shirtless, and he's going, "It's doomsday." It's great. It's hilarious. Like the only memorable line from that movie that's like a serious line, but the cheesiness just puts it over the top. But yeah, the Planet of the Apes stuff, I'd definitely push that.
I really want to see Escape from the Planet of the Apes. That just looks like a great comedy, man.
Oh, it's amazing.
The trailer had me cracking up, man.
Oh yeah, Grape Juice Plus, and they're all trying on these like fashionable clothes from the 70s. So of course there's like some hippie dippy stuff going on, and oh gosh, I definitely say Escape from the Planet of the Apes. I think actually that's the second best Planet of the Apes movie, at least from the original series. It's nearly on the level of the first one.
It looks great. Really good.
It's really funny and also really heartbreaking ending. And it's all sort of driven by those two characters, Cornelius and Zira. Zira and Cornelius, their marriage. I mean, the relationship comes through and it really humanizes these characters. It's really rather good movie, and worth watching several times. I think I got the Blu-ray box set sometime last year. Very worth watching, and the transfers are great and everything on it. So. But other 50s and 60s sci-fi, I'd definitely recommend, for a cheesy good time, Giant Gila Monster. Let's see. Attack of the Killer Shrews, where they basically just drape shrew costumes over the tops of like German shepherds or something like that. I also say anything that Mystery Science Theater 3000 covered in their sort of early period, or I would, all the way through the period. So anything that Mystery Science Theater 3000 covered, you could probably also watch not unironically, but you could watch without the commentary on it. But other stuff like you were talking about apocalypse stuff. One that immediately jumped to mind, and it's not a creature feature, but it's worth mentioning, is The Day the Earth Stood Still, which is just wonderful. And it's not really a horror movie, but it's got some scary stuff to it. It's got a theremin score by Bernard Herrmann, so definitely worth listening to the music. Cinematography is great. Great acting in it. Just really, really great movie. I'm trying to think of a few others before we move on from this, but one that here's a good one. Roger Corman. Roger Corman, of course, does some great stuff in the 50s and 60s as far as sci-fi is concerned, and a little bit of horror. Little Shop of Horrors in the 60s is definitely worth watching as a great creature feature, great midnight movie. And also, I'd probably recommend going to see the musical at least once live. Definitely worth it, even if it's like an off-Broadway production or something. But I would say, Corman did a movie called I think it's The Day the World Ended, and
yeah,
that's a fun one. It's a pretty fun one with actually pretty good special effects and pretty good sort of sense of paranoia injected into it, and pretty good cinematography. Actually, that's a fairly good movie for early Roger Corman. I sometimes find some of his early movies to be a little bit like the ones that he directed, to be just a little bit tedious and like boring. But Day the Earth Ended is worth watching as an early Roger Corman experiment. It's actually pretty good, and doesn't really suffer from the small budget like some of his earlier stuff does.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a Roger Corman production, which is another thing I want to get into for sure one day. But I will definitely check out those movies. They sound great. I also want to check out The Last Man on Earth. Is that Last Man on Earth or something?
Yeah, Last Man on Earth. It's pretty good. It is written by Richard Matheson, even though he disowns it. But it is written by him. Don't let him fool you.
All right. Yeah, I'll definitely give that a watch one day. As long with everything else he was saying. But of course, we get into middle part of the '60s. Started to get out of that creature phase. Started to get more down into what Psycho did, more realistic type stuff, more focusing on people. And then when the '70s came around, we got a couple of really fun ones, and it was a really fun time for creature feature flicks. I mean, there's a lot of them that I haven't seen. Like I believe there's one from, I think it's from the '70s called Dogs or something. Legend of Boggy Creek I didn't see. Food of the Gods, which looks amazing. Empire Ants, Giant Spider Invasion. I mean, I just go on and on. Not a lot of big ones, but the ones that obviously stick out to me is stuff like Jaws. Jaws 1 and Jaws 2 particularly. As I'm a huge look, I love Jaws 1. I absolutely love Jaws 1. I'm not taking anything away from it. But when we get to Jaws 2, I have to put that movie over, man, because Jaws 2 is like a movie that when I first seen it, it was like to me the perfect follow-up to the first Jaws. So we'll get to Jaws 2 eventually. But of course, Jaws showed that you could use a low budget and you could use this concept of a giant creature and make it a blockbuster. I mean, I think Jaws is one of the first big summer blockbusters out there. And of course, a Spielberg film really set the tone for the '70s. And really, even though the sequels are great, like I think 2 is amazing, I think 3 is fun. I kind of get what people mean by it. It was just one of those movies like Exorcist, where following up that movie is so hard because it is such an important film for what it is. But I absolutely love Jaws. I'm not taking anything away from it. I still admit it's one of the best horror films out there. But for me, whereas Jaws 2, I love the whole movie, Jaws 1, and not taking anything away from it, to me, when I really get into it, is about the halfway point is when it really hits home for me, and I really fall in love with it. But that first half, I will admit, it is a little slow. But when it gets to that second half, and the fact that you don't see the shark, I think makes it such a more powerful thing when you do see it. And maybe that's another reason why the sequels do get hate. But you can't do that again. You can't replicate that again. It's been done. So the fact that Jaws 2 did show the shark, to me, it was the smartest way to go, because you couldn't do that again. So to do it another way with a more slasher tone, I thought was a good way to take it. But Jaws 1, I mean, we can cover it real quick. I mean, there's not much else I can say. I am not of liberty to say really anything else. I mean, there's been so many reviewers to review it over the years and give it such positive ratings, but I still love Jaws 1. I think it's amazing. I think some of my favorite stuff is, believe it or not even dealing with the shark. It's the dialogue, it's the character, it's the boat stuff. The boat, especially the boat stuff, is what hooked me in. And I'm like, okay, this is what I'm loving. It's like Parasite. I don't know if you guys have seen Parasite yet, but you're watching it and you're going, okay, this movie's got all this stuff. Like, when is it gonna? And then when it hits you, it's like, that's what I love. So, yeah, Jaws is great. What's your guys' thoughts on Jaws? I know it's been talked about a lot, but just curious to see you guys' thoughts on it.
I mean, Jaws is like one of the best movies ever made, man. It's not much I could really add that hasn't been said. There's really probably nothing, but I agree with you. I think it's the scenes of those three together on the boat, just talking, and comparing scars and stories and drinking and singing, and then the ultimate battle at the end. And you're going in the cage goes in the water, sharks in the water, farewell and adieu. I mean, everybody loves, Shaw and Dreyfuss, and I just think the entire film, it has a perfect tone, perfect pace, perfect look. It's Spielberg's, I believe it was his sophomore effort, and I just think he hit it out of the park and made arguably the best creature feature ever, if you want to call it that. But at the same time, I think it's so much more. Like, I really do. Like, are the shark effects fantastic? Sure. Are the death scenes fantastic? Sure. I just think when I say I love that movie, I agree with Nate. It's that scene on the boat towards the end, and those three guys just shooting the breeze. There are so few movies that feel as genuine as when those three are talking to each other. Like that new Tarantino film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It reminded me of the scene where Leo and Brad Pitt are just sitting down watching TV, drinking beers together. Like, we've all been in that point where we've just sat down and shot the shit on some movies and or just life in general. And that's why I really always love that movie. But when it comes to the creature aspects, man, I think it was brilliantly done. Like the opening kill scene of the girl getting dragged, and they used ropes underneath the water to pull and contort her body to make it feel like she was being dragged by a shark. See, we never see it, but we do feel it. And I think when you make a horror viewer use another sense to feel another sense, that's a job well done, man. And I think Jaws is an absolute masterpiece, man. But what do you think, Steve?
I mean, I can't really add much of anything. I mean, I feel the same way. Jaws for me was a really big movie because that's probably going as far back as you can get. One of the first movies I saw that was at least deemed a scary movie. I don't know if you can call Jaws a horror movie or not, but it's definitely a scary movie, and still creeps me out. I mean, it's enough, maybe not while watching it so much, but I mean, I don't know, like last year I had a nightmare about a shark, okay? And it was like specifically, like I knew it was probably the shark from Jaws. And then also I don't go in the ocean. It's not a thing I do. I don't even like, I mean, all right, I don't swim in the ocean. I'd be fine with like boating in the ocean. I'd be fine with boating on a lake. But, in water deeper than like my waist, it's not a thing for me. I'm not a big fan. I'll do a pool. Pools are good. But I mean, other than that, like I'm not. Yeah, I'm not a big. And then
you want to go to SeaWorld? You don't want to go to SeaWorld? And no. Dennis Quaid.
All right. Now, if I could meet Dennis Quaid at SeaWorld and we could hang out, that'd be great.
Yeah,
I want to go to
that'd be
SeaWorld
awesome.
with Randy Quaid.
Oh gosh, Randy Quaid. I mean, he's I don't know. What's he doing now? Looking for like Trump photos or something like that? I don't know.
He's trying to get Christmas Vacation 3 made.
Oh gosh.
No.
He's doing whatever he can to make money.
Cousin Eddie grows a beard.
Oh,
He's a great actor though. He is a great
He
actor.
is. He is.
He's
Yeah.
hilarious. Having said that, like with Jaws, one thing that people probably don't talk about as much, and you guys touched on it, was the fact that it's actually a hilarious movie too. Like all of the scenes of humor and stuff. I mean, it has to be there, or else it's just a movie about a shark attacking somebody. And as much as we can enjoy a movie about a shark attacking somebody, it's, you're not all there all the time. It's why Sharknado had to continually get more insane, because you can't just
Fourth Awakens.
we have to put Chris Jericho in there, and he has to run that ride the way that it needs to be run, because I mean you got to do it. And you gotta have Ian Ziering. Is it Ian Ziering? I don't know. His first name's Ian anyway. But yeah, Jaws. It's you can't say a whole lot more about Jaws than has already been said, and I really don't think I've said much of anything about it. I've more talked about what things around Jaws, which is really probably the best way to go about it at this point, because everybody's talked about it. There is a new 4K Blu-ray out. I don't have a 4K TV yet, but I still want it. So.
Wow, I'll have to see that on. Dude, I can only imagine the DVD that I have. It was okay, but like I can tell, like it's aged. It's one of those early 2000s DVDs where like it's kind of, you took a VHS and put it on a disc kind of quality. So I was like, damn, like it's such. I want to see it in HD. So hopefully I can get that one day. So if you guys bury these movies, that's totally fine. Because I've heard so many people bury them. It's totally cool. But I will at least put over one movie, and I hope that you guys like it. At least like it as a fun movie. What's your guys' thoughts on like Jaws 2 and 3 and 4? Like, I would say this, Jaws 2, I think is one of the best sequels of all time. I think it's great. I think it's just so much fun. 3, it's fun. I'll say that. And then 4, it's interesting. It's there. It exists. Well, what's your guys' thoughts on the sequels, real quick, before we move on to the next couple of films?
I think Jaws 2 is pretty average. I've never been a diehard fan of it. I know there are some people that really put it over. I think it's average. I don't like the director, Jeanette Zwar. I've never been a fan of him. I think he's a jabroni. And I also think it's amazing that you go from Steven Spielberg to Jeanette Zwar. Like that's a step down and a half, man. That's a weird step down. With that being said, the finale's fun. Some of the characters are fun. It is really more of a slasher film than the first Jaws. I always like the scene on the boat where the shark gets scarred by all the fire and whatnot. And I was just like, yo, what are they going for, like a Halloween 2 kind of thing here? Even though it was made before Halloween 2, so I can't give credit where it was due. They did it first. I like the finale. I like the open wide, you son of a bitch. Other than that, I don't know, average film for me. 3, I think, is mindless fun. It's a fun little movie. I don't hate it as much as most people. And I think Jaws the Revenge is just absolute abomination, piece of shit movie. I can't even, like, I know there are people that are like, oh, it's so bad, it's good. I'm like, no, it's not. It's bad, dude. Like fucking Mario Van Peebles with the Jamaican accent. I'm Mario Van Peebles, man. Like, what the hell are you doing? And there's a scene towards the end where he goes in the water and he comes out and he's dry. And, like, there was one, I think he's in the shark's mouth and somehow survives without a scratch. Like,
Do you guys see that?
Oh, my God.
What's your thoughts on that ending, though? That ending where they pull him up and the background is all gray and the water is hitting a billboard. I'm just like, oh, my God, no.
It's a piece of shit. Michael Caine won an Oscar while he was filming that and could not accept his Oscar, dude. I feel bad for Michael Caine. He never won an Oscar again. Jaws: The Revenge is one of the biggest pieces of shit of all time.
It's a great comedy, man. It's a great comedy.
I don't even think it's a good comedy. You had a shark that followed that bitch to the Bahamas, and it doesn't even have a body count. There's 2 people that die in it. 2. Oh my God! One of them dies in the first 5 minutes. Lance Guest, poor Lance Guest, man. Get him another sequel like Halloween 2, not Jaws 4. Screw Jaws: The Revenge. I hate it.
And that other girl, she died by accident. That shark didn't even mean to kill her.
Yeah, that idiot on the banana float. Oh my God! I could write a novel on how much I hate Jaws: The Revenge.
Why did Lance Guest keep going back in the water? I'm like, the shark is going right towards you. Why are you going back in the water again?
I don't know. He survived Michael Myers, but he could not survive Jaws: The Revenge.
I know Steve is a big fan of that one. Just to show you
that.
Is
he? No. There are no bad Jaws movies at all. No, just joking.
I was going to say, wow.
No, there are no bad Jaws movies. Every Jaws movie is a good Jaws movie. Every movie featuring a shark is a good shark movie. I disagree with that. I only think that is true for Chuck Norris movies. Every Chuck Norris movie is a good Chuck Norris movie, but not every Jaws movie is a good Jaws movie. Jaws 1 and 2, I'm a big Jaws 2 guy. I mean, it's a little long. That's the biggest complaint for that one. It's super long. And in places where it probably could have clipped along a little quicker pace, they didn't do that. But I like it a lot. I watched it as a kid, and that's probably why I like it a lot, is because I watched it as a kid. So, I mean, you got to be we people like us horror guys, we really kind of got to be honest about the stuff that we watched when we were kids that we really liked that probably is pretty terrible now. Like objectively terrible stuff. But at the same time, we like it because it's fun. I don't think Jaws 2 is terrible, but I don't know if it's like a masterpiece. I think it's a pretty good movie with a that's a little bit long, but I like it a lot. Jaws 3 I haven't seen in quite a while. Excuse me. I haven't seen Jaws 3 in quite a while, but it's definitely fun. I mean, I've been told that like people who think Jaws 3 is a completely bad movie didn't see it in 3D. I've heard that if you see it in 3D, you're just like, I mean, of course it's a silly 3D movie in the 80s that was really trying to reignite the 3D craze at the time. I mean, just like Friday the 13th 3. I mean, yeah, 3D. Both of them are kind of like, yeah, they're not the best 3D movies in the world, but I mean, if you saw it in 3D, I'm sure it'd be fun. I've heard Alice Cooper talk about that before, where like he and his wife went to see Jaws 3, and the shark jumps up and grabs an airplane or grabs a helicopter or something like that and pulls it back down in the water, and he's like, this is just entertainment. That's just what this is.
Yeah.
You know? Like, yeah, we're just going to be okay with it because we paid, $250 to get in and see a 3D movie during the 80s. So I'm sure people have fun with that one. I've not seen it in quite a long time, but I remember it being not the best. But I'd definitely watch it again. I would also definitely watch Jaws: The Revenge again. I like the first part with Lance Guest. I unironically like that part of the movie. I think that scene is not that bad, but a lot of it afterward is pretty awful. But Michael Caine, I mean, he's still Michael Caine. So, and he's like walking around and he's like, he's got an open Hawaiian shirt the whole time. I mean,
it's like they were like, all right, just be yourself. Really?
It's a great movie when Michael Caine is walking around.
Yeah. Michael Caine, I mean, he's walking around. It's a great movie, man. Like, I mean, it'd be worse if Michael Caine was like wheeling around in a wheelchair. But
Yes.
like, I mean, since he's walking around, yeah. I mean, secondhand sharks, man. I mean, I don't know.
He nosedives the plane when he sees the boat. He says, "And crashed into the water." I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, I really want to watch that movie again. I really do want to watch that movie again. I'm also not entirely certain if I've seen Jaws 3 and 4 in their entirety. I'm pretty sure I saw them on Sci-Fi Channel once or twice, and then tried to watch them a couple times before and got interrupted. But maybe it's a good thing that I got interrupted.
It was so weird though, because like Jaws 4, it's like with Jaws 4, when I was a kid, I first seen it on TV, and I seen the ending, and in that ending, Marvel Event Peoples died. So I was like, all right, it's a very kind of sad ending, whatever. I watched the theatrical version for the first time, or the DVD version, because that was the theatrical version. You watch it on DVD and he's alive. I'm like, I don't remember this at all. What? Is this like another one of those Mandela effects or something? And then like, I'm like watching, like, he's alive. He got eaten by a shark. How is he alive? With a flesh wound. I'm like, what?
Peebles.
Go Peebles. He beat the shark. He got out of the jaws.
I've got to watch that again. I've got to watch it because I have heard it's like the Troll 2 of shark movies. So I'm up for watching it again. Yeah. But actually, I'm just going to backpedal and say that there are no bad Jaws movies and just stick with that. I'm just gonna put that out there and just stick with it, and then we'll move on to the next category. You guys, you brought up Legend of Boggy Creek, and I really like that movie. And there's supposed to be restored Blu-ray coming out of it sometime soon, but I think that was announced like 2 years ago. So I don't know if it's going to happen or not. But I really like that movie. Definitely not for the acting, because the acting in that movie, I mean, I don't even want to make fun of the actors because they're not actors. I mean, they're basically just people from around that area that may or may not have experienced this supposed Bigfoot creature. But it's definitely worth a watch. It's got a lot of atmosphere, and there are scenes that are like legitimately spooky, like really spooky. But then there are also scenes where Chuck Pierce is just singing a song in the background, so it's fun. Hey, Travis Crabtree. It's just okay. I'm clearly neither of you have seen the movie.
I've not seen that. I've not seen Grizzly either.
You haven't seen Grizzly? Okay, I haven't seen Grizzly either, but it's apparently Shark. Oh wait, no, Shark. Jaws on land.
Grizzly's great.
Is that
William
the one
Girdler rules, man? Have either of you ever seen The Manitou?
What's that?
Have either of you ever seen The Manitou by William Girdler?
No.
That's a great movie too. He's the same guy that did Grizzly. He sadly passed away after he did either Grizzly or The Manitou. Those were like his last two films. And The Manitou, this is people in the comments, I doubt anyone has seen this, probably other than my dumbass, but it basically tells the story of this woman. And she wakes up one morning and she has this growth on her back. And so she goes to the doctor. She's like, what the hell is this, doc? And he's like, it's nothing. It'll pass. So things starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where it gets so damn big. She goes back. She's like, listen, you can't tell me this is nothing. It's revealed that it is a Native American midget that is growing out of this woman's back. And they have to surgically remove this Native American midget growth. And they do, and then like this thing starts running around cutting one-liners, and then the movie ends in outer space. It's one of the craziest goddamn movies, man. William Girdler was like the greatest acid grindhouse filmmaker of all time, and he's the same guy that did Grizzly, which is a lot of fucking fun, man. Highly recommend both those films, especially The Manitou, just because of how batshit crazy it is. The Chief from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, he's also in the movie too, and it is a great time, man.
That was Amazing. I am watching that.
I gotta see this.
I
I'm
am
looking it
watching
up right now.
The Manitou.
Is that on YouTube?
1978. Oh gosh, let's see.
Same year as Halloween and Dawn of the Dead.
Oh yeah, so clearly it's got to be a good movie then.
It was walking around.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. William Girdler was walking around directing that movie.
He was. It's such a hilariously, and it has like really good people in it. Tony Curtis is in it. Like I said, the guy from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Like it has a good cast. Like it's actually pretty, and it's not a bad film. It's just what's so funny about it is it plays it serious throughout the entire. They're like, oh my god, you have a Native American midget. Like it's not funny. It's not like there's no cheese to it at all. It's just it's so out there, man. It's one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen.
Oh gosh, I have to see this. This is. I looked it up, and I think it says that the tagline was in the grisly tradition of Alien. So,
oh my god,
Grizzly and Alien, and it's the Manitou, and it says it's rated PG-13. No, PG. Like, oh, I mean, it was the 70s, so I don't know. PG could mean, oh yeah, we're gonna cut a woman's head off on screen. So I don't know.
Or we're gonna cut a midget out of a woman.
Of course, I mean, as you do, for fun on the weekend. No, I've got to see that. The Manitou. Okay.
Don't forget about putting your own face off in a mirror like Poltergeist.
Oh, gosh. Oh yeah, that was PG, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was PG.
And by the way, totally directed by Tobe Hooper, not Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg was like, "Hey, we should do a close up here," and Tobe was like, "Yeah, sure, we'll do a close up." That's
Toby's like, yeah.
But I heard that. I heard that. You got to listen to the Mick Garris tribute to Tobe Hooper. It's they get some stuff out there. Whoever the lady is from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, I can't remember her name. The lady who played Stretch,
Caroline Williams.
Yeah, she's a huge Tobe Hooper fan, and she's just shredding Spielberg all over the place. So like, I guess if you want that drama, listen to it, but it's definitely worth it. But yeah, other 70s creature movies. I don't know, man. I mean, there was a lot of those animal attacks movies. Whichever one has Leslie Nielsen fighting a bear shirtless. I mean, that's a thing.
Whoa.
Yeah, I don't remember which one of those it was. It was from 77, but I can't remember anything else.
70s, man. Gotta love it, man. I know Frogs that the 70s.
With Ray Milland. Frogs with Ray Milland. I mean, the poster is a giant frog with a woman's arm coming out of it. There are no giant frogs in the movie. It is just it's frogs are sort of part of the plot, but not really the full-on plot. So, I mean, frogs are there, but I think somebody gets killed by a butterfly in that movie as well. And Ray Milland is well, he's not walking around. He's in a wheelchair. So, I mean, clearly the movie sucks because he's not walking around. But
he's rolling around.
He is rolling around. He's a rope.
He's getting around. Rolling. He's getting around. Get that screen time.
But no, he got paid. He got paid though, and that's good because he's Ray Milland. He needs to get paid. But that's a good movie. And you mentioned Food of the Gods, which is not a good movie, but it's fun.
It's amazing. Did you see the giant rat effects?
Yeah, they were just giant. They were actual rats.
They were miniature sets they built, and they would like green screen people in there, like.
Mr. Big, Bird Eye Gordon, man.
It's like
the Amazing Colossal Man, the Amazing Colossal Woman.
Yeah, it's like Birdemic for back then.
All right. Listen, Food of the Gods is way better than Birdemic. Okay, I've seen Birdemic. Birdemic is much.
Get away from me.
He goes. Good.
Yeah, so the 70s did end though with a big movie. The last creature movie that I can remember from the 70s was 79's, of course, Alien, which I know John had picked up a 4K Blu-ray of that movie. Kind of curious to hear his thoughts on that and how the 4K turned out and how he enjoys that movie. So, John, take it away.
It's actually funny. I have a really cool history with Alien. Last year, before obviously all this pandemic stuff went down, I went to the movies. You remember going to the movies? I kind of remember it a little bit. It was one of my favorite things. I went to the movies and got to see Alien, and I believe, oh my God, what was the other film? Oh my God. I can't remember what the other film was, but it was back-to-back 35 millimeter double feature, and Alien was the first film. And seeing it on 35 millimeter on the big screen, it was just such an experience, man. Until I got the 4K just a few weeks back from my good buddy Don Nice, who I used to have the podcast with, the Flashback Horror Movie podcast. That movie on 4K, it's just sparkling, man. Ridley Scott's direction, the scope, the cinematography. I love the characters. They're also blue collar. Yaphet Kotto, I love. I think, of course, the English actor that dies, he gets the chest bursting. I can't think of his John. Oh God, what's his damn name? I forget the actor's name, but he's John Hurt. I think.
Yeah, John Hurt.
John Hurt, the Elephant Man.
Yes, yes, that apps, and that was the
Harry
year
Potter's
after.
wand dealer, whatever that guy's name was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the thing I love about that movie so much is just and when I watch movies nowadays, like I think they did that Alien ripoff called Life, and I don't like that you don't get the blue collar characters anymore. Everybody's so smart, everybody's so this, everybody's so that, and I hate that, man. I think what's great about that original movie is you can relate to them, and it's the fact that they don't listen to one another. That's why the alien is able to pick them off one by one so easily.
So let's talk about the bone situation.
Yeah, there's a point where Ripley says, listen, if you let him in, we're breaking quarantine. And I thought, I'm like, wow, what a funny world we live in now, where there was literally just a quarantine that people ignored, and in certain areas the COVID situation got worse. So I just thought it was such a good time to watch it is right now, because especially of what's going on in the world. And there's just so many fantastic scenes, and I think it's Ridley Scott's masterpiece, man. I really do love the film, and on 4K, it was like seeing it for the first time ever. It's just, that's one of those movies. See, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I don't care to ever see it on 4K. I want to see.
I want to see on VHS.
Yes, and The Hills Have Eyes, same thing.
Last
a movie
like
yes, a movie like Alien, though, I want to see the best polished version of it, and man, that 4K is just that. I highly recommend you guys get that version. It's incredible. I think it goes for like $15, so it's pretty, decent price.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Should we go into the Alien versus Aliens thing?
I mean, I'm pretty one-sided.
I love both equally, to be honest. I'll say, to me, Alien and Aliens on the same level, and then Alien 3 is where it is. That's where it delves to me.
I like the first one the best. And the same thing with the Terminator. Everyone says, T2 and Aliens are the best sequels. No goddamn way. In my opinion, no way. Do you want a sequel that's better? I think Final Destination 2 is a better sequel. I think Empire Strikes Back is a better sequel. Aliens and Terminator 2, they just tone up everything. But while I like Alien because it's so calm, cool, and reserved, and it's one by one, and it's the arguing and the characters. Whereas Aliens, it's like, let's do the same thing again, but we'll dial it up to 20. I don't know. With that movie, it didn't work for me.
I got you.
Game over, man. Game over. Now what are we gonna do?
You gotta respect Bill Paxton.
Yes.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah. But
this woman survived with no weapons or training.
Yeah.
We're in charge. Sorry.
A buddy of mine, I just hung out with him last night. Shout out Jeff, but hung out with this dude, and he said that there are only 2 movies that are better than Alien. And somebody asked what they were, and I said whatever his other two favorite movies are. But yeah, he loves Alien. I got to see Alien again because usually I'm an Aliens guy, but I got to see Alien again. I really want to see it on the 4K once I get a 4K TV and Blu-ray player. But now
I just got mine not 3 weeks ago, Steve, so I'm very new to it. I only have two 4Ks as of this recording. The next one I want to get is Universal Soldier. That's one of my favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme films, and of course Dolph Lundgren. That's going to be the next one I get. But it's worth the upgrade. And those TVs right now are pretty decently priced. I got mine for $250. It's a 43-inch. It's pretty nice, man.
Nice. But yeah, I of course, I mean, you can't say anything bad about Alien. I mean, it's a great movie. So, I mean, nothing bad to say there. Yeah.
Alien's great, man. Even when I was a kid, I would say as a kid, I prefer Aliens because Alien was such a slow movie. But nowadays, after rewatching all the Alien movies again, I would probably say that I'd put them both just on the same level. They're both equally great in two different ways. Whereas one is a better, slower movie, one is a better action movie. And, you look at it like that, it's like a coin. You might as well think of it as the Alien coin. You got two sides that are pretty cool. You want the cool horror side of the slow burn, put that in the machine. You want the other side with the action, explosions, badass one-liners, get away from her, you bitch. They put that in the machine, But the first Alien, man, I, of course, can cover everything else, like you guys said, the xenomorph designs, being a kid, just seeing this movie. I just always thought it was creepy. The idea this thing latches on a human, and it's like humans are used in the birthing process for these things. It just creeped me out because at that point you're already dead. You're dead, but you're still alive. And that's what always creeped me out. And as a kid, when he freaks out and the alien bursts out of his chest, I was like, oh my God, it's just horrifying, man. There's not this over the top, dun, 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 dun. It's this realistic. Just boom, it happens. You don't know how it happened. And when you're sucked into that world, by the ending, when Ripley is alone in that ship, when the last person gets killed, and you just hear that scream, and you hear these sounds from hell, pretty much. Just this, I can't describe it. It's this really crazy sounding death that you don't see, but you don't need to see it. It just sounds creepy. And when you realize Ripley's alone, and there's smoke everywhere, the lights are flickering, every step she takes, it's watching her. Not every step she takes, it's like you're in this world, you're in the movie at that point. You're wondering, okay, since it's so like she's so scared, she's taking her time through these hallways. You don't know where the alien's at. It's so good at the horror stuff that as a kid, man, that scared the crap out of me, and you really wanted her to live because you loved this Ripley character, and I still think it's a great character. And the ending of the movie was great, getting out of there, bumping the Nostromo, the alien's still there, shooting it out. This is Ripley, lone survivor of the Nostromo, and then she just kind of floats off, and it's
the best.
It's perfect, man. From the first frame of the movie with the opening credits to the last shot of the movie, I think it's just one of the most perfect films out there. It's got tension, it's got atmosphere, and it's crazy to me. It's a 70s movie, and it was able to build this world that didn't feel fake, didn't feel phony, didn't feel like it had green screen and sets. Everything looked real. The abandoned ship, the map paintings, the finding the eggs, and I've always loved the way in this movie that looked. How there's this layer of smoke that just kind of ends. And when you cross it, it's like a sensor. It makes the eggs kind of aware that you're there. I don't know. I can mark over it all day. It's got beautiful cinematography. It's got a cool poster. Ripley, Sigourney Weaver, wonderful job by her in the acting. I think it's Ridley Scott's. It's probably my favorite Ridley Scott movie, and I've seen a lot of his movies. I'd say this and Gladiator are my two top for Ridley Scott, but it's great, man. It's fantastic. And it was a hell of a way to cap off the 70s creature films. I mean, that's a hell of a way to stop it. You got Jaws in the beginning, then you got Alien at the end. That's just one hell of a cap off right there, man.
It is, no doubt, man. And that's the best horror movie that came out in 1979 too. So it's like it was the best movie horror-wise that year. So it stands out even more so because of that. And it's when people think alien movies, that's the movie.
Absolutely. And they try to replicate it so many times. It just, to me, that's where the Jaws thing comes in, where it's like, okay, they've tried to do that again. And it just, to me, I like Prometheus, but I don't think it's as nearly as good as the original movie. I like Resurrection as a fun movie, but I can't say it's nearly as good as the original Alien. But to get into the 80s, now this is where we're going to be getting into some really, in my opinion, this is my favorite era for slashers and really for creature feature flicks, because I'm looking at this list here, guys, and it is a lot of great movies right here that we can kind of go over. One of the big ones that opened up the year or the decade was The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing. I mean, that was the movie that when I was a kid, when I first seen it, just the special effects in that movie are, to me, when people say CGI is the way to go, I'm like, well, take a look at this. Take a look at this. Take a look at these slasher movies with their special effects, with The Burning and, Maniac and The Prowler. Look at these special effects, and these are practical effects, whereas this, it's like the transformation scenes are amazing. I mean, I really can't say much else about The Thing. I mean, it's one hell of a horror film. I think it's just great. It's one of my favorite John Carpenter movies, hands down. And what's crazy is back then it got really badly received. So I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts on the Thing. This is a hell of a way to open up the 80s.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, 1982. I mean, it's a great year for horror movies, but I think The Thing has. I think it takes the cake. And well, I mean, obviously, it's like my favorite horror movie right now. Right now, I'd probably place it at the top. The creature effects alone are. I mean, that's a good reason to watch the movie, but also the amount of paranoia that's injected into the whole plot of the movie, and how tight the movie is, and also sort of there's this sequence of shots at the beginning that sort of take you into the world. So it starts out, of course, in outer space with the spaceship whizzing by. And then it takes you to Antarctica on Earth. And then it's constantly cutting closer and closer. And eventually, of course, after you have the interaction with the dog, it's in the bunker. And they're there for almost the rest of the movie. I mean, they go out a couple times, but usually it's just out onto the rest of the camp. And Carpenter is constantly trying to keep you in this closed box of a world that is just filled with paranoia and filled with, I mean, some of the greatest character actors ever. I mean, Wilford Brimley is here, and of course Kurt Russell as the star. And it's one of Kurt Russell's best performances ever. I mean, it's one of the most sort of Kurt Russell-y performances. Anyway, I mean, it's a very John Carpenter, Kurt Russell kind of movie, because he's this sort of rugged individualist who has personal problems and everything like that. But just wonderful the way that that he sort of boxes you in, and yet it doesn't feel like a small movie. It feels, I mean, you sort of do feel the budget in this. You feel that it's big and it's expansive, and he is sort of creating a world, but at the same time, it's closed off from everything else. It's really it's almost indescribable the way that it does that, and the way that it feels compared to other movies of its time period and even afterwards. But like I said, great character actors, also really good writing. I cannot remember the writer's name, but of course it's based off of Who Goes There, the classic sci-fi novella. Another thing, it's a remake, so it's actually improving for one of the first times, really improving on something from before. Even though in a way it doesn't really feel like a remake, even though Carpenter didn't write it, it feels so Carpenter. And yet he does things in this that he doesn't really do in any other movie. He has these sort of wipes. He has different editing transitions than he would normally have. The music is not Carpenter and doesn't really even sound much like Carpenter. It's Ennio Morricone, and it sounds not even like Ennio Morricone, though. It's almost like they've got a Shining-esque score played over this movie that I think is the greatest creature feature of all time. It's Lovecraftian and also a little bit Hitchcockian, but ultimately it's just John Carpenter because he does stuff in here that's unique to him, and sort of maybe not unique to him, but he's taking all his different influences and plugging it in here. All the sci-fi, all the horror, all the Western, because I mean, what is Antarctica except a desert, but with snow? You know, it's just a frozen desert. And then also the influences of like Cold War paranoia and influences of. There's even a level of his religious influence in there because the movie feels apocalyptic. It feels like, you know, this is the end and it's coming. And I mean, even at some point, he says it a little bit sarcastically, but at some point, you sort of have to start to believe it. That MacReady says to Wilford Brimley's character, the doctor, the scientist guy, he says, "Why don't you just trust in the Lord?" And to a degree, it feels cynical, but also there's nothing else you can trust at this point because there's no one to trust. There's no material person to trust here. So you have to trust something else. And also the fact that it is like the most downbeat ending you could possibly end on. Just the fact that it comes down to these two guys, and either way, we're probably all screwed. It's also the opening to Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy, so it's important there. And I don't know, it also feels very weird because it's like the most testosterone-y movie ever because there's no women in the movie. There's hardly any women on set, reportedly, and yet it's it doesn't feel like just a mindless man action movie. It kind of proves the opposite of what it really was. But it's, I don't know, it's a beautiful movie, really, really well made and worth watching, and it's one of my favorites. So that's why I talk so long about it.
No, man, that was absolutely beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Great breakdown there, man.
Yeah. Well, having said that, though, I think I do have to jump off. What a great time for me to jump off. I hope you guys have a good time discussing the 80s. I'm definitely going to have to see if I can watch this video to see what you guys say about the 80s movies, because they are one of the better one of the better decades for the creature feature, which is sort of a lost art now. You don't really get really good creature movies anymore. So, but yeah, don't forget to talk about Monster Squad. That's all I ask. So,
Hell yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for having me on, Nate. Great to see you, the both of you. And yeah, bye-bye.
Bye, Steve. Thanks for being on, man.
Buddy.
Really appreciate it. Yeah, it's always great having Steve on, man. He's a good guy. It's great to have him back on. And I guess we can kind of cap off on the 80s if you want to, because really, after the 80s, creature feature flicks kind of went, downhill. Nothing really happened after the 80s if you think about it.
Yeah, I know, and there are a couple of the '90s that I know. I definitely wanted to talk with you about a couple of them. One of them was Lake Placid because I just watched it this past week, and then I think the day after you were like, "Oh, I want to do a creature feature show," and I was like, "Jesus Christ, I just watched one last night." So I definitely want to talk about that one with you.
Okay.
And there's another one, Shakma, which I don't know if you've seen, but that one I really want to mention in the '90s. But we can keep talking '80s if you want. I just as long as I want to talk Lake Placid with you, 100%.
Yeah, for sure, bro. For sure. We can go over some of the bigger ones real quick. Of course, this decade was crazy. I mean, of course, you had Gremlins come out, which I haven't seen yet, but that kind of started the trend, late '80s, early '90s, of stuff like Munchies, Critters. You had Screamers, you had Watchers, Langoliers. You had
Oh my God, the Langoliers. Dude, I
yeah,
love the
that
Langoliers.
infamous ending, man.
Dude, that for people who have not seen a Langolier, I just want to briefly touch on the Langoliers because we won't go in depth on that, I don't think. It's one of the best Stephen King adaptations until the ending. Like it oh man, it is such a fucking weird film. Basically, it's these bunch of people and they're all in an airplane and like overnight some of them fall asleep and when they wake up everybody on the plane is gone except the people that were asleep, and then they land in this other dimension and like one of them keeps saying, "Oh, these Langoliers are coming for us." Like 3 fucking hours later, these horrible looking fucking Pac-Man like creatures come along and they start like eating up the runway. It is some of the shittiest fucking effects I've ever seen in any movie.
Yeah.
It is up there with the worst effects of all time. But honestly, the movie, other than that, is not bad. Like, it really is not a bad film. Tom Holland, who directed Fright Night and Child's Play, also steps in as the director, and I think he does a decent enough job, and the acting's not bad. So it's a really fucking weird, that's a really weird creature feature that nobody ever fucking mentions. But I kind of like it other than the really bad effects at the end.
Yo, and it's like crazy because like it has such a good build up to that ending, and then the ending comes and you're like, "This is what I've been watching 3 hours of this for."
Yeah, imagine if the effects were actually good. Like it would definitely be like up there with Stephen King's It for the best TV adaptation Stephen King movie and The Stand. And like those effects just immediately you're like, what the fuck? Like what is going on? I know Stephen King does make an appearance in the end, which is always I thought was great with Mr. Toomey. I kind of like the Langoliers.
Yeah, man, like Lears is it's definitely film. It's definitely an experience, man. Um,
It is.
there's a couple of other movies from the '80s that I didn't see. Like I know Inseminoid is a big one. Brain Damage.
Oh my god, Inseminoid sucks.
Cat's Eye is a big one. Leviathan. Do you have any comments on those ones? Those are all ones I haven't seen yet.
Leviathan, I don't mind. There's Deep Star 6, which I have fun with. I like that one. Somebody in the comments mentioned this one, and I definitely agree. This is a great, I guess not a creature feature, but in a lot of ways it's a monster movie, is Clive Barker's Nightbreed. I have the Shout Factory 2
I
disc
need to
special
see
edition
that
version.
movie, man.
Oh man, Nate, this is one of my fucking favorites. It's up there. It's this and Hellraiser for the best Clive Barker movie. And man, I love this film, man. This is one I watch every October. I should do an episode on this sooner rather than later because I really like this one. Maybe October time I'll talk Nightbreed because I absolutely love this movie. The monster effects, of course, the legendary David Cronenberg playing the lead heel. I love this movie. This is everything I love about a great monster movie. But yeah, I mean, there are some of them, like Critters, and even in some ways, I guess the Leprechaun movies, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, like
Troll 2.
Troll 2. Have we ever talked about Troll 2 together?
I don't think we have.
Oh my God, let's do it.
Let's do this, man. I don't know if I told you this already, but me and my family, we were all sitting down. We all wanted to watch a movie. And I was like, hey, let's watch just a random horror movie. They don't have Troll 1, but let's just watch Troll 2 because it had nothing to do with the first movie. So I was like, let's watch Troll 2. and we were all like getting ready to get scared, and we were all just dying. They're like, Nate, why did you pick this movie? I'm like, I don't know. He's
Wow.
like, it is such a bizarre movie, man. Like, the dialogue is what really sells it for me, man. I'm gonna tighten my belt by one loop so I don't experience hunger pains. You see this? This is hospitality, and I'm not gonna allow you to piss on it. I won't allow it.
You can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it.
I was like, what the fuck? Dude,
It's
it
meal
is
box
so
spelled
crazy.
backwards. Grandpa. I love when they get there and he's just like, oh my god, everything freezes and they just pulls down his zipper and starts pissing all over the fucking food. Like oh my god, dude. That is definitely the best bad movie of all time. And I love towards the end where the villagers they come to the door and they start threatening him and they goes, you better do what we say or else we'll kill you. And like nobody, it's like an awkward moment of silence. And then the guy just like feels, I guess, that he didn't intimidate them enough. He goes, or else we'll kill you violently. I love that. Every time that scene comes on, I'm like, all right, we'll kill you. We won't just kill you, we'll kill you violently. Like I don't know what it is. It cracks me up every fucking time. And the store owner who in the documentary Best Worst Movie, you find out that guy was just like a random bum that they found on the side of the street and were like, you want to be in a movie and do a scene? And like knowing that and then seeing his performance, it's so fucking weird, man. That movie is absolutely fucking timeless. It really should be saved and studied and admired because it's just so wonderfully bad. That's anything you could want in a great bad movie to me.
Absolutely, man. Abso-freaking-lutely. That movie is insane, man. It is definitely insane. It was funny is it's called Troll, but it's not even about trolls.
Yeah, and they
about
told the
goblins.
director that. Like somebody asked the director, they were like, "Why did you do that?" And he's like, "Oh, same thing." Like he didn't give two fucks. He was like, "I don't care." He didn't give a shit, man. Claudio Fragasso.
I like how he was just like, you know what? Let's just make this movie, man.
Yeah, for real. He was just like, I want my money. Like, I don't give a shit, man.
Let's just make this movie. Waxwork, I like. Are you a big fan of Waxwork? I like Waxwork.
I have a lot of fun with Waxwork. Yeah, Waxwork's a lot of fun. Especially the finale of Waxwork's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think the end of that movie is fantastic.
How about Monster Squad? Are you a fan of the Monster Squad? Oh, it's another one. I don't know if we ever talked about.
You're gonna hate me for this. I've never seen that movie.
Honestly, don't hate you. You gotta remember that Nate and I are younger. I've seen the film. I'm not as big on that film as most people, but like most people that saw it as a kid will tell you it's the greatest movie of all time. I saw a movie called The Goonies as a kid, so I will put The Goonies far over Monster Squad.
Goonies,
and I'm a diehard horror fan, so it's just, I think, a nostalgia thing. I didn't see Monster Squad until about 4 or 5 years ago, so I didn't grow up on it, so that's why I'm not as high on it as most people. It's a great movie. I had the Blu-ray. I enjoy the film, but when people say, like, oh, it's better than The Goonies, that's crazy to me. It's not. It's not better. It's basically a remake of The Goonies.
Damn good. This guy's pretty damn good.
Exactly. The Goonies is a masterpiece.
I love The Goonies.
Goonies never say die, brother.
For sure. I'm glad. I'm surprised they never made a sequel to that movie because it was a big thing back then.
They did. It's called The Monster Squad.
Oh shit.
It's the same fucking movie. It really is, but it's just with like the Universal monsters instead of the Goonies, if you will. But I don't know. I enjoy the Monster Squad. It's a fun little flick. I know you like this one from 1980. This is probably my favorite Jaws ripoff. Would be Alligator. I really like that one. Oh
yeah. I have a lot of fun with that one. That's a great one. The special effects are pretty solid for what it is. And I think also it's got a pretty good atmosphere of the sewers. Like when they get to the sewers, it's really well filmed. And yeah, it was one that I just checked out one day. I seen it was pretty short and the poster intrigued me. So I checked it out. I have a lot of fun with that one. I also have a lot of fun with one called It's Alive. I don't know if you ever seen that one.
Oh yeah, Larry Cohen joint, right?
Yep, that's another one. Do you like Alligator?
I love Alligator. Yeah, Alligator, in my opinion, is the best Jaws ripoff. I think it's great. Like Piranha's really good too, but it's all to me. Alligator's fucking just a blast, and the story and the characters and the tone of the film. I think it's a really really fun little movie. I think in a lot of ways it's the movie that Eaten Alive was trying to be. Like Eaten Alive looks like it was shot by Dario Argento. Like just with the lighting and the colors and all that stuff, and it's so weird that Toby Hooper
That
did
movie's
that.
insane. That movie's
but like,
crazy.
yeah, it is. I don't know though. I don't know if I like Eaten Alive as much as I like Alligator though. Like Alligator.
You remember that one guy? You remember that one guy who was like this? He was like, "Gonna get you."
I love Robert Englund's in it too, and my name is Buck, and I like to fuck. Like that's fucking weird, really weird role, man. But I know another one that you like. This one's from the early '90s. Is Graveyard Shift.
Oh, dude, I love Graveyard Shift. Love it, dude. Such
Graveyard Shift's a
underappreciated
masterpiece.
movie. It's so forgotten, and nobody ever talks about it now. I think there's maybe a handful of reviews on YouTube for it. It's kind of sad, man, because that movie is so entertaining and fun, and it's short, it's a blast, and I love how they took the Jaws approach. They were like, hey, we're only going to show you bits and pieces of this creature, and then when we get to the end of the movie, it's going to really show it, and I thought it looked great. And I don't know why, but when I went into it, I was thinking it was going to be a killer rat movie or something, because the way they were building it up, it seemed like it was going to be about killer rats, but ended up not being that. But yeah, dude, Graveyard Shift is amazing. Especially, I like how it's a movie like They Live, where it's focused on the working class. And I think we need more horror movies about that, because not everybody out here lives in Beverly Hills and is wearing name brand clothes and a supermodel. And, you know, it's I get tired of seeing movies nowadays where it's so polished. It's like, to me, it becomes unrelatable and it becomes unrealistic to a degree, because, you know, sometimes you'll watch a movie and you're like, people really don't act like this, you know, even rich people probably don't even act like this. But I like movies, especially like that one, where it was about people just working, making a living, trying to get hours, breaking a sweat. I can relate to all of that, because I have done, I can relate to trying to pick up hours and breaking a sweat, and, being the working, I'm pretty sure we all can relate to that, being the working class, and it's always awesome to see that. And They Live, even though it's not really a creature film, it's an alien movie, so I don't know how you would really categorize that. But the one thing I do want to point out with that movie is I love how it's about the same thing. It's about people just trying to survive, I love how Roddy Piper's character is just really just calm dude, cool, collected guy. He's nice, trying to look on the brighter side of life. And then the other guy, Keith David, is looking more on the dark side of life. He's down in the dumps, and they're both kind of working together to help each other out. And I like that. I like their dialogue. There's one golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rule. And I love that. I love all that stuff in that movie. So, yeah, man. Graveyard Shift, though, I know I've been blabbering about it, but it's because I think it really deserves more attention, because it is such a solid creature film.
Why do you think so many Stephen King diehard fans and just horror movie fans in general hate Graveyard Shift? Like, what is it that is so bad about that film? Because I never could figure that out. Like, for years I heard, don't watch it. It's a piece of shit. It's one of Stephen King's worst, blah, blah, blah. Then I watched the film and I'm like, well, yeah, Brad Dourif is the most fun exterminator in the history of movies. Even better than John Goodman in Arachnophobia, which is hard to do. And I don't know, the finale is really tense. The over-the-top boss, the entire movie I love from beginning to finish. I just don't get the hate. Why do you think so many people rag on that one?
I have no clue, man. I can't even really think of any reasons to hate it, because, it's not a chore to watch. It's fast. The characters, some have argued the lead guy is wooden and that he's too stiff, but I thought he was a cool. I think what it is the lead guy was a drifter, and I think the drifter thing's been done so much that at that point it was like, okay, another movie about a drifter coming into town, and but I would have said that if it wasn't done well, and I would have said that if the guy wasn't likable as a lead, and he was likable. He was a guy you related to. He was a dude who was getting, as soon as he comes into town, he's got people picking on him. He's got people just constantly, talking shit to him. And the girl I like too. They say that her acting's pretty bad. I'm like, no, I like how realistic she is and how it just seems natural. I like how it's natural. It's not fake. It's not phony. To me, it was very natural performances, and even the way they look, I'm not even meaning that in a bad way. I'm meaning they don't look like supermodels that were from a magazine or something that, was put into a movie. It was normal looking people. And I liked that. And I liked how the atmosphere was. So really, if you break it down, I can't even really explain how you wouldn't like the movie, because it's a short movie. Like you said, Brad Dourif, he's fun. There's even a scene that I really love from him. It's one of my favorite acting scenes from him, is where he's talking about how he was in the war and, they were eating him. They were eating his body. And I was laying there. I couldn't do anything about it. And that scene where he's crying, he's just crying, dude. And it's like, he's not really like crying, like bawling his eyes out, but you see a tear go down. He's just that into it. And I think that was just fantastic. The creature looks good. It's a short movie, great characters. It's got some bloody stuff in there. So really, I don't know why. I don't have a clue, other than maybe people have decided that the acting, but I don't even get that, because to me, the acting was far better than most. Like, if people want to put Rose Red above that or Salem's Lot, they can go ahead and do that. But I like that more than Salem's Lot and Rose Red. Just my personal, because like to me those movies are just too long. They're not movies, but they're too long, and I don't get why they don't get put in that list. They get put over, but Graveyard Shift doesn't, and I don't really get that.
I don't know. I don't really know, man. I wish I did, but it baffles me. Like all these years, that's all I ever heard about. Like, to me, a bad Stephen King, like Dreamcatcher, that's a bad Stephen King movie. And there's plenty of bad. The Shining miniseries from 1997, that's a piece of shit Stephen King adaptation.
I like Graveyard Shift way better than Thinner, even though I didn't hate Thinner, but I like it way better than Thinner.
Me too. I could probably give you a list of not nearly 20 films that I would take as a Stephen King adaptation, and I would take Graveyard Shift over them. I like Graveyard Shift, always have. People in the comments are going crazy for 1408. I like that one too. I think that's a really good one. The only thing I don't like about 1408 is there's like 5 different endings to it, and like every edition you get, there's a different ending. So I just wish they'd pick one ending, man. Like there's one where he survives, there's one where he dies, there's one where somebody's in the back seat and scares the shit out of Sam Jackson. Like, I don't fucking understand that. Like, just
I seen the one where he died. That was the one that I seen, was the one he died. I don't know about any other ones. Is there more cuts of that movie?
I think they had like 4 different endings, and all of them have been released at one time or another on whatever edition. Like the DVD had one ending, then the unrated cut had a different ending, then the Blu-ray had a different ending. Like, really fucking weird. I like the edition. I like the ending where he gets out. He actually gets out of the room, and like at the end he's with his wife and they're reminiscing about the daughter. And I think one of the last scenes is, him on the beach with his daughter, and it's like he's fantasizing that. I liked that. A different kind of happy ending, because that movie, when it starts, you think, oh, this guy's fucked. I thought it would have been a different kind of change of pace to make it end more happy. But I like 1408. The ride is definitely the most important thing, and the entire ride is really good. The ending, no matter which ending they pick, which I always thought that was weird. Like I have a DVD with one, and my buddy has the Blu-ray with the other ending. It's just fucking strange. Like I never understood that.
Yeah, I still really love that movie though.
Me too.
Creep Show. Yeah, you could say Creep Show. I mean, Creep Show's classic. Creep Show too.
Great.
You know, you gotta admit, man, like that opening with the dude. You know, you see this hair? This hair is gonna get me paid and laid.
They're gonna rub this hair in between their legs.
They see that they're gonna see me. They're gonna say, "Hey, get over here."
One more step and blam.
You gotta love that, man. The Creep Show 1 and 2, man. Dude, they're so good. The crate, the raft. I love pretty much every segment in those movies. To me, there's not one bad one. I love all of them, to be honest.
You're a fan of The Hitchhiker, I know, which is very rare. Most people hate that one.
Yeah, I love that one. I just think it's just the way it's done. Like, it's so bizarre, but at the same time, so like, so it really feels like they took an urban legend and explored upon it and gave it some twists and gave it a unique approach. So I like The Hitchhiker. I think it's underrated. It's
Thanks
not
for the ride, lady. I like The Hitchhiker too.
Especially the way it ends. With his face all messed up. I'm like, oh shit. But
yeah,
man, Creep Show.
It's probably like, I don't know. It's everybody's like always shits on that one. I have fun.
I know. I never got that. Like, that's why I was like, but they'll put over Chief Woodenhead. I love Chief Woodenhead, but I'm like, they're like, well, the Hitchhiker is a stupid segment. I'm like, the Chief Woodenhead's about a statue coming back to life. Like, I love that idea, but you're gonna sit here and tell me that the Hitchhiker is a stupid idea, and be like, oh, I like Chief Woodenhead.
Nate's like, motherfucker, this motherfucking statue came back to life. It started killing motherfuckers.
What the fuck you talking about?
Come on, you want to tell me that the Hitchhiker?
What the fuck you talking about, Sly? Come on.
Come on. She run over the man in the raincoat. Come on. What's the matter, Dylan? The government having you push too many pencils?
Yo, that's another one we could talk about. Predator, man. That's a big one. That's a creature feature flick.
Oh my god, yeah, that's fun. I did not dawn on me for some reason, but yeah, that's a creature feature for sure. That's a fucking great movie. The first Predator is so great.
And you get a really good show on it too. I must point that out. I really enjoyed the show that you guys did.
Oh yeah, that's my buddy. That's my buddy Ryan. He's good people, man. That was such a fun show. He's a big Alien guy too, so he wants to do whenever I do Alien, he wants to come on for that one. I'm hoping to do like a actual like sit down with the person because he lives in my town, so we can actually get that together. It just stinks like all the studios since COVID. It's hard to get a studio at Ram Nation or anything. So I don't know. I mean, it's been rough, but we always have StreamYard.
Yeah, that's the great thing about this too, is like it still gives us a chance to kind of broadcast stuff out there and still kind of do the shows. But what's your thoughts on because it's always been really fun to me. Predator was not always supposed to be like that. There was an original vision for Predator, like the suit. You had Jean-Claude Van Damme coming in, and it was like so bizarre.
That would have been horrible. And if you saw that fucking design for the Jean-Claude, that would have ruined the movie. It would have instantly went from like a 10 out of 10 to like a 4 out of 10. Like that one change alone. And Kevin Peter Hall is the Predator. So fucking good, man. And both Predator 1 and Predator 2, may he rest in peace. I loved the thing my buddy Ryan mentioned that he does with the fingers, like as he takes off the mask. Just those little personality traits. And in part 2, when he's almost egging on and toying with Danny Glover, the Predator is just such an awesome character. And the first Predator and the Long Tall Sally and all those characters, it's a great movie. To me, it's almost like Alien on land, but in a lot of ways it has more personality than Alien does. Alien's like a slow burn, wonderfully made, beautiful scope horror movie where no one can hear you scream is the tagline. But with Predator, it's so much more 80s. It's so much more dialed up, but it's dialed up, I think, in better ways than how Aliens dials it up. Like, to me, it's still one threat, it's not multiple. It's just one threat in the woods. And we have all these badass dudes with muscles and fucking AK-47s getting picked off one by one. I don't know. It's the personality. You remember all the Bill Duke character, like shaving himself. Like, I love the characters in Predator, man. They're phenomenal. John McTiernan's direction. It's just phenomenal. Predator is one of the best creature features. And it's funny because, like, I would have never mentioned it. It didn't come to mind as a creature feature. I almost think just action horror.
Yeah.
But it is a creature feature for sure.
Dude, it is really fun, man. And I love how it's kind of like From Dusk Till Dawn, where it starts out as an action movie, them going to the jungle and looking for hostages, and it starts out like a total Rambo type movie, and then it's like, the fuck is this? This skinned alive. What the fuck is going on? I just love how it goes like boom, it twists, and then like they realize they're in deep shit. I did what I have to do to get you out here. And I has orders to follow. I did not follow orders like that. Me and my men are expendable. No, I just
the Expendables.
Yeah, shout out, man. Shout out. He was given that before the Expendables even came out. He hinted towards the future. But yeah, Predator, man. It's great classic movie. I quote it all the time because it's very quotable. The jungle, I just thought was it fits it. Even though I love Predator 2 a lot, the jungle really fits the Predator great. And it really looks good. And when you don't see the Predator very much, it makes it a mystique. You're wondering what this thing is. And then when you actually see it, to me, this is the best look of the Predator. Just the basic mask, no armor, nothing flashy, just, down and dirty basic Predator. And I like this Predator the best because to me as a kid, once again, seeing it, it was just like, okay, it was very unique and different. And then the sequels just really tried to, we got to make it bigger and badder and make it super Predators and the Predator Hulk and it kills the Predator. I'm just like, nah, it just doesn't work for me, even though I love Predator 2. Like when it gets to super Predators and you're having ones with more armor and they're trying to make them more robotic than anything, I just didn't care for that stuff. But Predator 1 and 2 are definitely the best ones for me. They're the most effective ones. And Danny Glover in the second one is a great choice as the lead. Even the people shit all over that. I don't get that. They're like, Danny Glover should have been the lead. I'm like, why not? He's badass. He's fighting this Predator and he's coming back for more. It's done extremely well in that movie. Door swings both ways.
I've really warmed up to Predator 2. Like, for the longest time, I could never fucking get into Predator 2. And I just, upon watching it enough, I kind of like it a lot more now. I even like the third one. I think Predators is a good movie, and a lot of people will tell you that it's a piece of shit. I will take Predators over the last Predator movie for sure.
Dude, the Predator was such garbage. It was terrible, man. I really didn't get into that one.
Me neither.
Before we get into the ones that you want to talk about, though, because I love those movies as well. Just trying to see if we missed. Oh, I do want to talk about one other one though before we get into your picks real quick. The Blob. I must say I was really impressed by the Blob. And really, really good movie. And I wasn't expecting much from it because again, it's one that's not talked about a lot. Nobody really brings it up. And I was just like, all right, it could be decent. I watch it and it blew me away, especially the special makeup effects in that movie, man, they're crazy. It was really good, man. It's got a great cast, some great one-liners. It's the experiment that fucked up. Mullets, 80s stuff. You got snow making machines. It's like you've got people getting imploded in phone booths. People being sucked into I want to say into like a sink or something. Somebody gets sucked into a sink. Theater madness. The Blob is just insane, man. What's your thoughts on The Blob, man?
Love The Blob. That's great late 80s fun. It's one of those movies where the special effects are really the star. I do like Shawnee Smith in the film. I do like the direction from Chuck Russell, who, of course, previously had directed Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, and then went on to do movies like The Mask. So I thought the direction was really top notch. It's one of those movies that I know it's technically a remake, but it's like The Thing in a lot of ways. It doesn't feel like it at all. It just feels like its own original thing. And man, I don't know. It's one I definitely get really into. I really am due for a rewatch on that one. I have not seen that movie since I'm a kid, like for sure. It's been years. If it's not been, it has to be more than 10 years since I've seen that movie.
What about The Fly? We forgot to mention The Fly too. That's a fucking masterpiece.
Cronenberg, man. Cronenberg is the man.
Dude. Fucking, I don't think I've seen a bad Cronenberg. I love Scanners. I love The Brood. I love Videodrome. And I love The Fly. So, Cronenberg.
Videodrome is fucking. Man. I think Videodrome is the best movie.
That's a trippy ass movie, man.
Yeah.
Very trippy movie.
I know his feature film, his first movie was Shivers. That's coming to Blu-ray Tuesday. I pre-ordered that. So I'll be getting that in the mail on Tuesday. I'm excited for that. That's a really, really great it's kind of a creature feature. It's these little slug worms that get into your body and make you sex crazed and shit. It's a weird fucking film, but it's a really good one. And I'm excited to see it finally get a good release in the United States, especially a high def one. So I can't wait for that. But yeah, The Blob, The Fly, both those movies are fantastic. And honestly, for the special effects and the direction. And that's, when I think creature feature, those are the main two most important things. It's the special effects and the direction. You know, like American Werewolf in London. The special effects are incredible, and then Landis's direction and the fun tone and the music and the kind of winks, and while the movie's going on, it kind of winks at you. It's in on the jokes, and it's in on the scares and the transformation. Just wonderful stuff, man. I really do think
now we're no longer alone.
I see trouble on the way. I absolutely adore American Werewolf in London. That's my favorite werewolf film, for sure.
Me too. Hands down. That's a fantastic one. I'd say that one, and I'd say that one. I'm a really big fan of Dog Soldiers too. That's another fun one. You ever seen that one? That's a great one.
Ginger Snaps, I like.
The Fly with Cronenberg, The Blob. I'd say The Stuff is a really good one that I've seen. I know you weren't really into that one.
Wait, which one?
The Stuff.
Oh, The Stuff. Oh, I don't like The Stuff. I think The Stuff is a really overrated movie. I have a hard time sitting through The Stuff. I think it's one of the most cringy movies, but I know so many people that love it. I'll never forget. I went to this all-night horror movie fest, 13 and a half hours, 8 horror movies in a row. And there's this guy standing there with the coolest denim Dawn of the Dead jacket. I had to ask him where he got it. I walk up to the guy. I'm like, dude, that's my favorite movie of all time. Like, where did you get this jacket? He goes, bro, my wife made it for me. I'm like, dude, number one, you have the coolest wife of all time. Number two, what movies are you looking most forward to tonight? He shows me, he had the little list. The 7th movie down, The Stuff. He goes, bro, this starts at 4:53 in the morning. I'm so excited to watch this. And I'm like, of all these fucking movies on here, you had Hellraiser, Creepshow 2, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, Blood Feast, House, and Night of the Living Dead. And he was Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. And he was most excited to watch The Stuff. I thought that was the funniest thing ever. I was like, dude, that's one I don't get. Like, I love the concept and the infomercials. It's funny. But the movie, holy shit, man. I can't. The Stuff, oh my God. I can't even pretend. Like, I know a lot of people love it. I'm not. I'm definitely.
I have fun with it. I mean, it's far from perfect. I can say that.
Danny Aiello.
You see, that's honestly though, there are 2 more that I guess I can mention really quick that kind of feel the same, like how you feel about The Stuff. I never really got in the Chud or Silver Bullet. Those were 2 ones that I couldn't really get into. They were either honestly, they're both the same problems for me. It's the slow pacing. It's the kind of barely anything happening. Most of it is the ending.
Nothing happens in Silver Bullet. I agree. Like, I don't dislike the film. Like, it's a good movie, but it's not really a like, I know it's considered like one of the best werewolf movies. It's not really a werewolf movie. It's like mostly like a coming of age Stephen King movie. It's almost like Stand By Me if there had a werewolf at the end of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But like,
exactly.
It doesn't make it a horror film to me. Like, I don't know. Like, Gary Busey's
really like it very much.
I'm not a diehard fan about it either. Like, I'm not either. It's good. I don't hate it. It's not a movie that I'd say, oh, it's a piece of shit. But it's fucking overrated. I agree.
Well, what about Chud? You like Chud?
Chud, man. I haven't seen Chud in so long. That's another one. I'd have to give it a rewatch, but I don't mind it. It's not, but I'm probably, more on middle of the road,
Yeah. Well, we can get into the films that you wanted to talk about if you want to.
Oh, hell yeah. Let's start with Lake Placid just because that one's most recent in my mind.
Yeah.
I adore Lake Placid, man. That is a really, really
Me
fun,
too.
really fun movie.
One of my favorite creature feature flicks, man.
Oh, dude. Can you tell me, like, give me your thoughts on film? Because we've never talked about it. And, like, I just recently revisited it. And, man, I just had a ball with it. I watched it on my new TV.
Yes.
Love that movie.
It's just a movie that I have a lot of fun with. I really love it. People take it way too seriously. It is not meant to be taken seriously. It is a movie that knows what it is and sets out to do exactly what it's trying to do. It's a giant crocodile killing people in a lake. And I love it for that. And I love everything in between. I love the characters. The cast is actually really surprisingly great. I mean, you've got Bill Pullman. You've got, just a really wonderful lineup for the cast. I think that's what really helps that movie is the dialogue, the cast, the fun nature of it. It's a really fun movie to watch. It's a blast. It's gory. People mention the CGI. The CGI for me is probably the only thing that doesn't really age too great. But to be honest, there's not a lot of CGI in that movie. Most of the CGI is like here, there type stuff. Most of it is practical stuff. And you want to see bad CGI, I recommend you watch Lake Placid 2. That movie sucks. Lake Placid 2 is fucking horrible. But
Lake Placid, the final chapter.
Oh my god. Lake Placid versus Anaconda.
Lake Placid Legacy.
Oh no, it never stops. Bro, and they made a final chapter. It still isn't over yet. There's never a final chapter. Final chapter never exists in horror. It never does.
Never.
There's never a final chapter in horror. But yeah, I love Lake Placid, man. It's a blast. It's fun. It's bloody, gory, great stuff. Love Lake Placid.
Me too. I agree with you. Everything you said. The cast is fantastic. Bridget Fonda is looking good as always. I love me some Bridget Fonda. Yeah. I really like Oliver Platt as like the crocodile expert guy. I like the guy who plays the sheriff, who I think he went on to be in the Harry Potter films, like the fourth one. He's like the guy with the one eye.
Yeah.
I don't know the actor's name, but he does a really, really good job. Steve Miner, of course, directs the film. I thought he did a wonderful job with it. I think it's a lot better than Halloween H2O, which is incredible. The movie's back-to-back, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really, really good flick. I really like Lake Placid. And I agree, while the CGI is not the greatest, and it's probably the movie's biggest crippling flaw, I think that like the Betty White character and just the overall tongue-in-cheek tone of the film, it's great. And it's short. It's not even 80 minutes long, I don't think.
It's very short. It's here, there, it's done,
Yeah, it has a great pace. I'm a big, big fan of Lake Placid. I think it's a really underrated creature feature for sure.
It's a great Steve Miner movie.
Yeah, it's that one, the two Friday the 13th, House, like he's just made so many awesome horror movies. It's probably his last great movie. Warlock. I love Warlock.
I love Warlock. That's another one I really love.
Yeah, he's awesome, man.
Yeah, for sure. What was the other one that you wanted to talk about?
Oh, the other one, Shakma, baby, from 1990. Really underrated killer baboon film. it's just a wonderful movie. I love everything about it. I don't know if you've seen it. I don't think you have. But
I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen plenty of reviews and clips of it, and it looks like a lot of fun. And I believe they used a real baboon for that movie, so that's interesting.
yes, that's one of those where there's no CG at all, and the beauty of it is it's all done practically, and it's one of those really fun movies. Like it just has a great feel to it. It's basically all these people playing Dungeons and Dragons in this building, and this kind of super genetic baboon gets out and starts killing them off one by one. Amanda Weiss is in it from the original Nightmare on Elm Street. She does a wonderful job in the film. And I don't know, the entire movie I just really like. I like the tone of it. I think it's just a really underrated creature feature. Of course, Roddy McDowall's in the movie, and I think it's just, I don't know, I think it's kind of underrated. It's definitely one I highly recommend to you, my friend, because it's certainly one of those movies that doesn't get talked about enough, and I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I definitely, that's one that I really want to see. It looks fantastic, and the fact that they didn't use any CG, or they didn't use really any, I wouldn't say they probably, I would say they probably don't use too much dummies in that movie, like as far as the creature goes, as far as using like special effects. But yeah, that's always one that I want to check out, and hopefully one day I can get somehow to see. I think it's for free on YouTube, so I'll definitely give it a watch. There is this movie that was made in the 70s. This is just a little fun fact I wanted to bring up, called Roar. You ever hear about that movie?
I have not.
Yeah, well, it's this movie called Roar, and it was a real movie back then. Not really a horror movie at all, but it was an exploitation flick where they used real tigers and lions, and they did not train them. They were real, like, because this guy, I guess he owned a bunch of tigers and lions in real life, and he wanted to make a movie. And he's like, man, like, what movie am I going to make? Da 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 da. And they were like, well, let's just make a movie where we film these lions and us just, hang around these lions. We'll put a story in there, make this movie. And it's a movie with real people around real lions. And there are times where they get pounced and stuff. And it's like one of those unintentional horror films where you're watching, you're like, oh my God, like somebody could have gotten killed while making this movie. It's really crazy that movie was made.
Yeah, that's insane, man. I've never heard of that. I would have to check that out. But dude, I figured we'd do one more to close, unless there's any others you want to talk about. I know a couple people are asking
for a couple hours now, so yeah.
Yeah. Somebody asked if we seen Rogue. I liked Rogue a lot. And another one, I thought I saw Slither. Yeah, Slither was a lot of fun as well. That's a fun James Gunn movie.
I seen Slither. I didn't see Rogue. I did see Slither though, and Slither I thought was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. Again, maybe the only problem is the CGI, but everything else is great. You got Michael Rooker in there. You got a beautiful lead. You've got, I think you also got the guy who had gone to be in Castle. He was in that earlier role. James Gunn movie. James Gunn, of course, we've gone to be in Marvel and doing all kinds of big stuff now. His script was great. It's like a movie like Street Trash, which I haven't seen that yet, where it feels like Trauma, but it's not Trauma. And I wouldn't say it's as like kooky and crazy as Trauma, but it has that really gory, fun vibe to it like a Trauma movie does. But I know James Gunn would also work with Trauma. That's why it kind of feels like that. But I love Slither, man. I think it's great. I think that and Night of the Creeps are both great movies about killer slug things. So I love Slither, man. It's great.
Yeah, same here. I figured the last one we talked about though would be Jeepers Creepers, because we touched on every decade except really the 2000s. That to me is the last creature I guess you could consider Cloverfield the creature feature, but to me the last one that really comes to mind.
Feast, man. Feast was the last one I remember.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, definitely Feast for sure.
Feast was great. That Feast is crazy.
Yeah, the first one's really good.
That's a bonkers movie right there.
For real, man. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Jeepers Creepers? Because that's really the one that I always think of when I think of like
Yeah.
creature features of our generation.
Yeah, I love Jeepers Creepers, man. It's great. I'm one of those guys where I'm not gonna let what some shitty piece of crap director did ruin those movies. Like, he's a fucking horrible person, and I think he should never have made those movies. But I'm not gonna let what he did ruin those movies, because there was more people involved with those movies than just him. So I think Jeepers Creepers is, first of all, I think it should have been just 2 movies. You didn't need a third one. The second one, the way it ends, you didn't need a third one. It was just 2 movies back to back that I think are both great. I think are both fun. And dare I say, I like the second one better than the first one. Whereas the first one's a much more establishment movie where you're trying to get introduced to this character. The second one's just full out. He's there the entire movie, killing people off one by one. It's more gory. It's more mayhem. It's more action packed. It's more thrills. I would say the second one's better, but the first one's a really solid horror film. It was another one of those ones where when I was younger, it was talked about a lot, and finally seeing it was a blast. It's a fun movie. It's fun. They're both great movies to me. They both have good usage of practical effects, and I like how it didn't start out as a creature. You thought maybe he was just some killer. It was going to be something generic like that. But then I love how it became a creature because it was out of nowhere. And
Yeah.
I love them both. They're both fantastic movies to me.
I agree with you completely. Yeah, I think that's the beauty of it too, where it feels like from half of the movie that, oh, this is just a serial killer or something, and then at the end it's revealed, oh no, this is just creature that's around every 23 years for 23 days. I thought that was a really smart kind of twist on the thing, and whatever it eats it becomes. And I like that they set an established rules for the creature. I thought that was really cool. I wish more creature features did that, where they was just like it laid down the lay of the land. And that's what I really like about Jeepers Creepers. Aiden says Grande is in Jeepers Creepers too. I'm in Jeepers Creepers too. Who do you mean, that nerdy ass guy who's calling for help? Is that who you mean? We need help, man. We need help, man.
We need
I'm
fucking
pissing
help.
my
We're getting
pants.
killed. Didn't that
Dude,
guy
that guy survived.
Yeah, he lived. He
Too
almost
sweet.
died.
I survived Jeepers Creepers too.
The asshole guy died, which was crazy because it seemed like he was gonna have a comeback, but he ended up dying.
Scotty.
Yeah,
Scotty, no.
yeah.
Jeepers Creepers 2 is fucking fun, man.
It
Jeepers
is so
Creepers 2.
fun. It is a blast.
It's basically the first one on steroids and with a bunch of dumbasses on a bus, and it's great.
Yeah, it's just like a slasher version of it too.
Yeah, it really is. I like both those movies. I like the first 2 for sure. The third one, holy shit.
I'm not gonna watch that. I'm not gonna watch the third one. It just, to me, looked terrible from day one. Like, everybody else was hyped for it. I was never hyped for Jeepers Creepers 3. That was one that I was like, never make that. Please don't ever make Jeepers Creepers 3. But of course, fans kept asking for it, and it got made. I'm not dissing anybody, but that was just a movie that I was like, dude, Jeepers Creepers 2 was the ending. That was the ending, to where when it comes back, that badass guy can now kill it. And from what I've heard, part 3, I think part 3, isn't part 3 a prequel or something?
Yeah.
Like before that. So I'm like, you don't even follow that ending. So it's like, really?
Yeah, it's a big twist at the end that it takes place right after the end of the first film. And I'm like, are you like, the last shot of the movie, I think you see one of the people walking towards the bus, and he has a jacket on from the second film. And I about fucking just jumped off my butt. I was just like, you motherfucker. And then they all were like, oh, Gina Phillips is in it. And I was like, oh, really? Gina Phillips, in the last like 2 seconds of it, she's like, I'm going to kill this thing. And I'm like, bitch, you have to wait another 23 years. I fucking hate that. I fucking hate Jeepers Creepers 3. That is if I could fucking have a physical copy of that, I'd shit in the box and just close
How
it.
the fuck does that even tie in? Because the second one follows the first movie, which is 23 years later. The third one is in between the first one and the second one. But how do they see that bus and it be 23 years later? So, and then I'm curious about this too. If that creature killed that farmer's son, when did that happen? Did that happen the first time that he came out? Like, I don't. Oh God, that threw me off.
Who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
The only thing you gotta know is that the first two are good movies, good creature features, and that the third one is a piece of shit.
Yeah, I probably would never see that movie, to be honest. But
that's a good fucking move.
Yeah, man. I learned my lesson from Creepshow 3. So, a hot dog ghost story.
My hot dog.
He's haunting me because they killed him with the hot dog.
The Haunted Dog, the shittiest anthology horror segment of all time.
For sure, my guy, for sure. But it's been an absolute blast, man. We've been going for a couple hours now. It's been awesome. It's been a great time, man. And I can't thank you enough for being on. I really appreciate you being on the show. A lot of fun, my guy. A lot of fun.
Dude, always great times with you and Steve. I think you and I could talk just about forever about anything. So that's the beauty of it. And I do know, I asked him about this, good brother Nate. Now I'm excited. Sometime this October month, I want to do a Hellraiser 3 commentary with you.
Hell yeah. To the Hellraiser commentary. Yeah, sure. I'd love to, man.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Hellraiser. Dude, we're going to rock Lemmy. Me and you, we're going to get some popcorn, some fucking dews. That's going to be a really fun night. That's something I want to do for sure.
That's going to be badass, man. I can't wait.
I'll pop out. I got the VHS of it, so that's what I'll be popping out.
Lucky. I got to watch it on some shitty DVD pack.
The fucking Hellraisers 3 through 8. I almost just like when I saw it, I was like, this is really bad.
Like you were gonna give you all most of them are shitty except for part 3. Like literally the rest are shitty. And then they gave me a bunch of Prophecy movies too. I'm like, I don't want to watch Prophecy. What the fuck?
I think the solo editions of all those movies are out of print too. That's why they came out with that 3-pack. Like that's what I was just like, oh man, like I
did find a Hellraiser, and that's crazy. I found a Hellraiser 3 DVD. It was an old school one time, but it had like stickers all over it. So I didn't get it because it had like a bunch of like Blockbuster stuff all over it. But it was an old school Hellraiser 3 DVD. It had the original poster on it. It said widescreen on the spine of it. So yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, we'll definitely. I can't wait for that. It's gonna be awesome, man. I'm a huge mark for that movie, and that's gonna be a blast, man. I definitely can't wait for that.
Absolutely, brother. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man. Thanks so much for being on. Thanks to everybody in the comments for chatting along. Sorry we didn't get to talk to you guys too much. There's all 3 of us in the stream. We were all in conversations, but I did read it silently on the side, and I want to say thank you to everybody that was watching. I really appreciate it. And thanks to John. Thanks to Steve out there. Really appreciate it. Have a good night, y'all. And Too Sweet. Have a good weekend, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Peace.